All right, 40K enthusiasts, Fritz here getting some Blackstone Fortress on. And right now, if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, I am committing massive heresy right here. The Inquisition has been dispatched. Fritz playing with unpainted miniatures. Just absolutely insane. This video was going to start out as a build and paint, looking at some of the sprues, seeing how things to go together, comparing some of the models. And I was only going to do a few, but I made it through really fast. It took me about, taking my time, Deep Space Nine in the background, some good music playing. Took me about 2 hours to build these miniatures. And the only thing that I would have to say for those of you who are new to Games Workshop and new to putting these kind of dual fit pieces together, you need clippers. To try and do them without clippers, or at the very least, if you're going to press into service, fine scissors, possibly, because the details on some of these models are just absolutely crazy. Here's the Eldar Ranger on there, and they're so thin in a good way that to just kind of pull them off the sprue is very, very dangerous. So the first thing I noticed, and this is coming from someone who's played 40K for a long, long time and has a variety of models. My newest 40K army probably being my Berserkers of Scalathrax, Cornate Chaos Space Marine army. I've noticed that over time the models are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this isn't new. If we're going back to old school 40K, look at some of the old rhinos that were kind of the pre-heresy or the heresy rhinos compared to the rhino kit today. So certainly GW has been scaling up the models, whether we want to call it true scale or heroic scale with it. Never thought we'd get to see a man of iron in there. But I noticed with these models, the detail is great. They look amazing. Let's try and set this up on here. Focus in a little bit. So we've got the Chaos Lord, who's just fantastic. Chaos Space Marine, Man of Iron, and an Eldar Ranger. And I just put in a Space Marine right there. I mean, I knew Primaris are big, but I just get the feeling that Games Workshop is upping the scale of their models. I mean, that's a Space Marine dwarfed by a Ranger on there. If we look at the Chaos Space Marine, so I wonder how well these would integrate into someone's army that they might have had for a while, or playing a little bit with 40K, because certainly you've got the data sheets to incorporate these pieces, and it adds an interesting twist to the game. So a few plays in. A couple of things that I've noticed. Of course, production quality is amazing. The artwork on the tiles, the ease of the cards for the characters are really good. The tokens punched out, they're thick. The models are amazing. You've got a lot of theme everywhere. The box is fantastic. The artwork is fantastic. The books are fantastic on there. But how does it play? This, in many ways, and I'm a huge fan of dungeon crawling type games on here, this is the type of game that I've been waiting for a long time, on three kind of levels. The first level is naturally I'm a 40K enthusiast. I love playing Warhammer 40,000. I love the big games. I love the epicness of it. I love the social aspects of it. But we can't play 40K forever. Well, all the time. I should amend that. So on my downtime of playing 40K, I'm building, I'm painting, I'm watching podcasts, I'm watching videos. Well, I'm listening to podcasts, watching videos, checking out forums. But this game is an amazing solo experience here. I get to play 40K that's just different enough from the real 40K, but it's the same models, it's the same narrative, it's kind of the same everything on there. So now I can play 40K with friends, I can play 40K solo. For that middle ground, we can bring in Blackstone Fortress if we want to do that kind of narrative thing on it. So that alone has just totally expanded the enjoyment, the narrative of 40K. The layout. Now this is something that when I first saw the layout on here with the tile pieces, I didn't quite know what to make with it. I'm used to a traditional dungeon crawl where you've got some rooms and you kind of clear one room, go to the next room, clear it, go to the next room. It's kind of like a string of encounters. It's almost like there's an illusion of choice. or with games like Descent 2nd Edition, which I love, or Dark Souls, you can go left, you can go right, but it's still going to kind of loop around. Compare that on the opposite side to a big wargaming table, where imagine this whole table is a wargaming table. We have a lot more choices. So if I've got clusters of terrain on my wargaming table, I can begin to move this way. Maybe I'll send my Death Star up the center. I'll send my Mauler Fiends on the flank on there. I'll bring in some Terminators in the back. I've got some Obliterators pushing forward. You have a lot more maneuverability, but how tactical really is it? And being a couple of adventures in here into the Blackstone Fortress, no spoilers, this type of setup is really interesting because it creates pockets of maneuverability. Like if I just look at this map, this was a combat card that we drew out. If I just look at this map, it condenses the best of a dungeon crawler and it condenses the best of a war game into a very nice little footprint, dynamic map. I've got clusters that I'm going to maneuver through and fight over. I've got choke points in here that obviously these traitor guardsmen are going to try to come through on this way. I've got an ability to outflank depending on the behavior of them on the card on here, how they roll and what they do. They might charge, they might hold, they might run up the flank. I mean, the AI is simplistic, but very, very interesting on it. And I find that there's a lot of really neat tactical options I've been faced with. And it's not just the usual, usually when you play a dungeon crawler type game, the most obvious thing to do is just stick together, right? Stick together and go clear room by room by room. So far, I've been faced with some serious choices. And I'm not talking about like Archaeotech trying to get greedy and grab everything I can. Of course, I'm going to do that on there. But going through and sometimes splitting up the party. And I found that it worked out very, very well. So it turns out this map setup with these pieces that you lay out, there's a few more up there, very interesting, very unique, a very interesting take on it. With that, the narrative, I really feel like playing through the game, the tension, I'm in the Blackstone Fortress. I'm in there, and I'm looking for loot. I'm looking for stuff to advance my cause. Reinforcements pour in. The AI is very, very interesting. It works very well. The two other observations, and again, no spoilers, that I really like, I was a little bit worried about this piece here, where you kind of roll to see behavior. What are they going to do? It's the equivalent of, because this game plays like a skirmish 40K, but it has role-playing aspects. And the role-playing aspects in terms of the narrative and the story, it does so well. I was a little bit worried, if I can draw from Dungeons & Dragons for a moment. If you've ever played a D&D game, you sit down with the Dungeon Master, the Game Master, and the other players, and you're ready to go. And it takes a little time to get into the adventure. The DM is explaining what's going on. You're there thinking about your character. You're getting into character. You're ready to go. And something happens. A switch happens at some point where now you're in the game. Now you're in the adventure. Now you're running through and playing it. And whenever you have to look up the rules, or if the DM kind of doesn't know what to do, or the players are unsure, if there's a pause in the game, it pulls yourself out of the narrative. So I was a little bit watching the demos and playing a couple of initial games with another friend of mine. I was a little bit worried. The narrative of the Blackstone Fortress is so well with what it captures, and the cards and the discovery and the exploration, your little control panel here. I was worried that, and it plays so fast and combat is so furious, I was worried that when it comes time to move and roll this behavior to figure out how to move, was it going to kill the narrative of the game? After 2 or 3 games, it goes very, very fast. You're used to it. And I love the idea of the AI with how it works. So that also was a massive, wow, Games Workshop. And I mean, certainly I love 40K. Certainly I'm a GW fanboy, but I'm not immune to the stuff that they've done over the years and some of the areas with their IP and how they play what they've dropped and where they've dropped it. But this, they just nailed it. Everything comes together on there. And the other thing with the character activations, this is what I kind of wonder. In many ways, the simplicity of this this is the 40K that I've been wanting to play for a long time. And I played Rogue Trader back in the day, and certainly it was a lot more clumsy and a lot more rules and stuff you didn't really know what to do, but it felt like you were in more control and had more decisions, yet at the same time being a little bit simplistic. On here with the dice that you roll out to activate, and then you assign, and you figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to play it. Actually, I'm not in the game yet with this, but this is a pretty interesting roll on here. Figuring out how you want to move, what you want to do, the Destiny dice up here, bringing them into play. It's a very simplistic system, so it plays fast. It's a D6 system, but it gets over the limitations of the D6 using them as activation dice. That was very intriguing. Imagine if we had a unit of Space Marines that could activate with 4 dice. And then when it's your turn with those Space Marines, you could activate back and forth and figure out what you want to use. The other interesting thing about this game, which I understood in theory, but how well it works, I haven't flipped them yet. The initiative track on here, you have cards for the heroes in play, and then you have cards for the encounter points on there. And they switch and they move, and you can use some powers to manipulate things, but turn by turn, you really don't know who's activating when and where. So just how far do you want to push it? Do you want to take someone and move them out? And if you get a bad activation, meaning the Trader Guardsmen move first, then you're in trouble. At the same time, if you play conservative and you get a good initiative, you get a good activation, it's kind of wasted. So there's this feeling of press your luck. There's this feeling of claustrophobia in the Blackstone Fortress. When are you going to activate? Where are you going to activate? How are you going to activate? It is very, very intriguing with that. I'm very, very excited about this game. And now the duality is I want to play this nonstop, but I got to get these miniatures painted up. They just absolutely demand it. The Trader Guardsmen are just like, wow, just crazy, and Beastmen and regular 40K returning, and the Chaos Lord, and just wow on that. And as of this video, we've already seen the teaser, the release for the Amble. So to fight that kind of classic Rogue Trader monster, wow, bring that back. And if they keep on releasing a character pack next, I really want to bring an orc into this. I mean, he's working with Kroot, he's working with Eldar. I mean, so we could bring like an orc in. I mean, could you bring like a Necron Lord in? I mean, if things got bad enough, you got to do what you got to do. But if they could blend that storyline and bring in some of these other models in there, like, wow, that would be absolutely crazy for 40K. And it could happen because, look, Blood Angels and Necrons, now that they've been retconned, they're best friends. So certainly a Rogue Trader could work in there and do that. But if they could put out more character packs, like, just, I hope they support this at least for the coming year. At least like another sort of big box, a couple of small boxes, a character pack on there, maybe another card pack, some other stuff from White Dwarf. And then, you know, GW being GW, they'll kind of move past it. But certainly, with any doubt, Blackstone Fortress, if you're a 40K enthusiast, absolutely wow on there. I cannot recommend it enough. And I'm only about 10 or 11 plays in. I'm not even in that deep yet, but just wow, it is absolutely amazing. So I'm going to get back to setting this up, running my way through, trying to grab some more loot. And the next couple of videos, we've got to look at Grey Knight stuff. We got to get back to Necrons. I've just got a bunch of new Tyranids in that I've got to work on getting painted up. Going to be re-examining Warriors. Going to be kind of tapping into you guys for the Warriorology there. Tyranid Warriors to see what we can do. And, of course, hopefully some plays through the Blackstone Fortress itself.